Hi everybody, I'm Jared Pike. This is Shell Point Today for the weekend of July 26th, 27th, and 28th. On today's show, FineMark Bank tells us how to avoid financial scams that target seniors. But first, we heard about another scam making the rounds, this one concerning Social Security. Now, your Social Security checks are a lucrative target for scammers, and they'll try anything to get you to divulge your personal information. Many letters that you receive look like this one. They say that you've started an online account even when you didn't, and then tell you to call this phone number to clarify. And when you call this phone number, which is fake, and give them your account information, boom, they've got you. Now, if you ever have some sort of Social Security question, don't ever call the number they give you. Always look it up in the Yellow Pages or on their website, socialsecurity.gov. And in a pinch, they even have offices in Fort Myers on Colonial Boulevard. But just because it looks like it came from Social Security doesn't mean that it did. Always ask someone and confirm. Or at the very least, you have people here at Shell Point that can help you. From the call center to the Legacy Foundation to FineMark Bank. Tiffany Williams from FineMark Bank is here now to discuss more tips from shutting out scammers in this FineMark Minute.
Financial scams targeting seniors have become so prevalent in this country, they're now considered the crime of the 21st century, and they can be devastating to many older adults. I'm Tiffany Williams, Managing Executive at FineMark National Bank and Trust on the island. In today's FineMark Minute, I want to remind you of some of the top scams so you can be even more cautious the next time you get a call, email, or solicitation. Some of the most common scams involve Medicare. Criminals often pose as a Medicare representative to convince seniors to give them their personal information. Once they have it, they can scam victims out of thousands of dollars. Don't give out your personal information unless you know for sure who you're talking with. Another common scheme involves scammers using fake telemarketing calls to prey on older adults. With no face-to-face interaction and no paper trail, these scams are incredibly hard to trace. Also, once a successful deal has been made, the buyer's name can be given out to other scammers. While using the internet is a great skill at any age, phishing scams are popular among the elderly. One example of phishing is when a senior receives an email that appears to be from a legitimate company, asking the user to update or verify personal information. But once the information is given, it's used to steal from the victim. And finally, sweepstakes or lottery scams. Scammers inform the victim they've won some kind of prize, but the winner needs to make a payment to unlock the prize. Or they'll send a phony check and collect supposed fees or taxes on the prize, which they then pocket before the check is rejected. In this day and age, you can never be too careful. If something doesn't feel right or sound right, don't do it. If it's too good to be true, then it probably is. Ask questions. Call back to confirm who you're speaking with. And if you aren't sure about something, please stop by our office at FineMark on the island or give us a call at 461-5999. We'd be more than happy to help. With today's FineMark Minute, I'm Tiffany Williams.
Coming up, we are replaying the week's best stories from Shell Point TV. But before we do that, let's cover all of this weekend's happenings, menus, academy, and church news.
Welcome to the weekend edition of Shell Point TV's Happenings segment. I'm Bev Chandley, and I'm going to go over the activities we offer on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for you folks here at Shell Point. We're going to start out Friday morning at 8:15. The stamp ministry will be going on in the stamp room of the island. Then we move to 8:30 till 11:30, where you find our marketplace going on in the administration courtyard. Now at 9 o'clock, we have the round robin men's doubles tennis down at the Woodlands tennis courts. At 10 o'clock, we have canasta being played in the game room of the Woodlands. 10:15, the inquiring minds will be meeting in the Osprey room on the island. We move to Friday afternoon, where 12:30 brings us to the mixed progressive bridge game in the game room of the Woodlands. 1:15 is the time table tennis will be in the tarpon room on the island. Also at 1:15, the quilters will be busy in the Osprey room. We move to 1:30, where Vespers will be in the community room at the Arbor. And 2 o'clock, we have euchre going on. That's a fun game that'll be in the Sable room down at the Woodlands. At 2:45, we'll have another Vespers, this time in the community room of King's Crown. We round out Friday night at 6:45 with game night at the Resident Activity Center. Head on down there for some fun. Saturday morning, we're going to start out at 8 o'clock with the Adopt a Road program. They'll be gathering at the Administration Circle. Also at 8 o'clock, we have the round robin men's doubles tennis being played at the Woodlands Tennis Courts. At 9:30, we have a trip going out. We have the Miramar Outlets and the Miramar Design Center trip. They start their island pickups at 9:30, 9:40 for Woodlands, and 9:50 for Eagles Preserve. Sign up is required for that trip. At 9:45, the Manatee Room will be busy with Duplicate Bridge. At 10:15, the Model Yacht Sailing Club will be sailing their boats at the Woodland Commons Lake. The afternoon starts out Saturday with 1 o'clock chess game in the Library Lounge at the Resident Activity Center. Also at 1:15, we have table tennis in the Tarpon Room, which will be available all weekend unless it's posted otherwise. At 3:15, it's time for basic line dancing in the Health Club. And then at 6:30, we have the Duplicate Bridge game in the Manatee Room on the island. That's the Saturday lineup. Sunday morning, we're going to start out with 9 o'clock Christian Life Studies in the game room of the Woodlands. And then Christian Life Studies at the Village Church begins at 9:15. Our morning worship service at 10:15 will be at the Village Church, and it will also be broadcast live on ShellPoint TV, Channel 12. We move to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, where the Mixed Golf League will be at the ShellPoint Golf Club. And then we conclude the Sunday activities with a 6:15 evening service at the Village Church. Well, thank you for joining me for this weekend edition, and we'll see you back here next week to tell you what's happening.
Hi, I'm Terry Kolath with your Academy information for Friday and the weekend. On Friday at 9:30, watercolor painting for intermediate and advanced painters continues in the art studio in the tunnel on the island. I'd like to share with you our new classes for next week, the last week of the summer session. We will have USA to 1815 with Professor Adrian Kerr, session 5 of 5 sessions.
Menus for your weekend. In the Crystal Room, the Crystal Platter on Friday is grilled shrimp skewers with pasta and roasted vegetables. For dinner, it's the seafood buffet for $14.95, and the soup is vegetable beef. In the Island Cafe for lunch on Friday, enjoy a seafood salad on a croissant with fresh fruit for $6.95. The dinner special is Chef's Choice for $7.95. In the Palm Grill on Friday, you can have lamb chops for $20.95 or Florida lobster tail for $18.95. On Saturday, the Crystal Room is closed. In the Island Cafe for lunch on Saturday, enjoy a pulled pork sandwich with coleslaw for $6.95. For dinner, it's chicken rollatini with mashed potatoes and mixed vegetables for $7.95. Dinner specials in the Palm Grill on Saturday are prime rib for $18.95 or veal asabuco for $15.95. On Sunday, the Crystal Room features its Sunday brunch for $17.50. In the Island Cafe for lunch on Sunday, there's fresh fruit with cottage cheese, sliced tomato, and a hamburger patty for $6.95. The dinner special is Chef's Choice for $7.95, and the Palm Grill is closed on Sundays. All menus are available 24 hours a day at www.shellpoint.net.
A very warm welcome to you today as we enjoy Village Church Connections together, and I want to warmly welcome my guest, Pastor Andy Hawkins, as well. Thank you, Andy, for joining me.
It's my pleasure, always is.
As we're here to talk about the weekend, we have a very special guest with us this weekend for our morning worship service, and I'm excited about that. She's somebody that is familiar to the ShellPoint community. She plays violin with the symphony here in the area and a number of other groups, and has been here a number of times. Her name is Reiko.
That's fantastic.
And she is a good friend, or has been a good friend, with Dolly Soul, who recently passed away.
I see, yes.
And she will be here as part of our morning worship service, playing several selections just to the glory of God.
Absolutely. It's always exciting to see the musical expressions that people bring to the village church. And I know Pastor Woods has a lot of connections along those lines, and this is just one other example of a wonderful opportunity to glorify the Lord with that kind of excellence.
It is. It will be a real blessing, I know, for everybody. And then you will be preaching in the morning, again in the book of Ephesians. And I think this week you are talking about the unwise and the wise a little bit.
That's right. And interestingly, the context of that part of chapter 5 of the book of Ephesians really has to do with redeeming the time. And we, I think, at Shell Point are more cognizant of time than perhaps most people are in America, because time is short. And how do you make the most of the time that we have available? And wisdom is necessary to do that. And as we know from a biblical perspective, wisdom has to do with applying biblical principles in ways that enhance our daily living. And so we're going to look at how to do that in the context of a time that is short. From a biblical perspective, it's short because who knows when the Lord might return. But from a practical perspective, who knows how long any of us have. And so how do we make the most of the time that we have available to us?
Wise words for all of us.
I think so. Yeah.
So the morning worship service will be a wonderful time of worship together. And then in the evening, we'll be picking up again in the series on Noah.
That's right.
We've been enjoying that with you as you've studied and shared with us what's on tap for this week.
Well, hopefully not another torrential downpour like we had a couple of weeks ago, but this is in the context of chapter 6 where we are. We're going to be looking at the nature of the judgment that God is bringing upon human beings because of the wickedness that had grown and escalated to such a degree as that God was driven to act. But interestingly, in the midst of that judgment, God establishes a covenant with Noah and his family. And it's one of the most wonderful demonstrations of the grace of God, even in the midst of the darkest of times that we can imagine. So I really am excited to see. We'll learn a lot about the nature of a covenant and how God really unilaterally establishes covenants of grace with His people. And He does so with Noah in a way that is remarkable and is pivotal with respect to the history of humanity, and how that leads as well to the covenants that we enjoy as believers in Jesus Christ.
Wonderful. And then after the evening service, we'll have a special time of fellowship with some goodies.
I'm hearing about ice cream.
Yeah,
again.
We enjoy our ice cream at the
We love
village
ice cream,
church.
absolutely.
Especially in the hot summer months. It's just a wonderful opportunity for us to just spend a little bit of time fellowshipping together.
Absolutely, and I've enjoyed the couple of times that we've had that kind of opportunity on a Sunday evening, and a wonderful time of good fellowship.
Great. Thank you, Andy, for joining me today.
My pleasure.
We invite you Sunday morning at 10:15, Sunday night at 6:15, and stick around and enjoy some ice cream with us following the evening service. Thank you, and have a wonderful day here at Shell Point.
It's time for our Shell Point TV Week in Review. And we began this week at the Shell Point Salon and Spa, where Robin Church introduced us to their newest massage therapist, Robert Bissett.
Hi, my name is Robin, and I'm the Salon and Spa Manager here at Shell Point. And today we're here with Robert Bissett. He has joined us to do massage therapy in the Island Salon and Spa. Robert is here Monday, Tuesday, and Saturday. He does a fantastic massage. He incorporates some stone therapy into his massage. He's got some nice techniques. We're going to go over some things today that could be really helpful to you.
How does this feel, Robin?
Oh, this feels fantastic.
Where's most of your tension and discomfort at today?
I always get a lot of tension into my neck and my upper back and my shoulders.
Well, as what we're massaging up here in the trap and the shoulder area here, I'm not sure if you know, but massage is not only just about rubbing muscles, it's also about moving blood around. For instance, up in this area right up here, we have a lot of cubby holes, if you will. Cubby holes and traps and areas where the blood likes to hang out. Oh, I call it where the old blood hangs out. And what I mean by old blood is not necessarily the age of the blood, where It's the blood where the nutrients are all used up in, and it's just kind of taking up space in all these little cubby holes and all these little trap areas in here. And what I basically do is I kind of like squeeze the old blood out of the little cubbies and trap holes there and get them into the circulatory system so it can rejuvenate itself with fresh blood. And in the same time, as I'm squeezing out that blood, I'm making room for fresh blood with the nutrients to get into all these little areas and feed your aches and pains. Your body's nutrients, your body heals itself. It heals all those little aches and pains.
Tell me a little bit about the sciatic.
Well, your sciatic nerve runs alongside of a muscle that I work on called the piriformis muscle. The piriformis muscle, that's deep. It's below the glute muscles. It's a skinny muscle that's very deep in this area here. And what I do is I kind of just exercise and rub and massage the piriformis muscle, which runs right alongside the sciatic nerve. They run right next to each other. And when this piriformis muscle, through time, you know, our muscles shrink up and they're not so elongated anymore. They kind of shrink and shrivel a little bit. And what happens sometimes with people is the piriformis muscle that is used for lateral hip flexion. That's like spreading your leg out in a pool or whatnot, stretching that piriformis muscle out. It runs alongside the sciatic. If you don't elongate that muscle and stretch it out, when it shrinks up, instead of being like a pencil, it's more like a little snake, and it kind of gives a little turns, and what it does is put slight pressure on the sciatic nerve that runs right alongside of it. It runs right close to the nerve, and it goes through a small hole in your pelvic there. It shrinks up and it puts pressure on that nerve, and that's where you feel the radiation going further down. And I've relieved a lot of pain from a lot of clients. Good posture is very important, and also, you know, just the stretching of those muscles, and that's just good wellness, Robin. That's with you taking care of your body and stretching it out like that, I mean, everything else will follow along suit. That's some of the great benefits of massage. I have some clients that come in maybe once or twice a year, you know, when they're hurting or when they got a situation, and I have to always, you know, fix them when they come in, and sometimes it takes more than one or two times visits for them to actually feel anything. And I also have some clients that come in weekly, and I call them my proactive clients, where they don't have any issues whatsoever, but they know to come in to be a little more proactive instead of reactive, and they don't have any issues at all, and they're in every week.
That's true, because one massage builds on top of the next one.
Absolutely.
And so on, so it's kind of progressive.
Absolutely, absolutely. The more frequently your visits are, the more results you're going to see. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
Thanks for joining us today. I hope that you learned some really valuable information and learned how massage here that we offer in the salon and spa can really help you in your life quest journey. As massage therapy is part of the physical dimension of wellness, it's really beneficial to incorporate that into your lifestyle. Thank you, and if you have any questions, please feel free to give us a call. Either myself or Robert or Marianne would be happy to answer any of your questions you have about massage therapy. Thank you, and make it a great day.
See you soon.
The Suzy Q is once again giving boat tours around Shell Point, and with a newer, bigger boat, they can go to more exotic destinations like North Captiva. Here's a glimpse of what life is like on North Captiva.
How do you keep your sanity on a 5-mile-long sandbar that requires a good 15-minute boat ride to reach an island with a bridge and another half an hour to reach the mainland? It takes a special breed, as we've learned from the islanders of Usepa and Cabbage Key. But North Captiva Island, also known as Upper Captiva or simply North Cap, is different. In the scheme of things, it only recently became an island unto itself, cleaved from Captiva Island by a hurricane in 1921. Today's islanders exert the same spirit of independence. But sanity? Well, that's a different issue entirely.
Well, some people think we're insane to climb in the boat and to live up there on the island. Other people, I think it's almost a vicarious experience for them. They think about us out on the water, sunrise and sunset, and being able to fish and be able to enjoy all those things that an island lifestyle brings you. So there are a lot of people who say to me that must just be a wonderful experience.
Because Christy lives on North Cap but works on Sanibel Island, her daily routine differs from those who work and live on their unbridged island.
9 out of 10 days are great, and that 10th day is one that I would prefer not to be out there. Most of the time it's because of the weather. I can take the cold, I can take being wet, but the wind can be a challenge. And so handling the boats on the day that I probably rethink whether or not I want to live on North Captiva. But it's brief. You know, it's a half hour, then it's over, and then I'm fine again.
Those who don't commute off the island are either retired or provide services for their fellow islanders.
They mostly look after other people's houses and yards and so on, and some people are retired.
They have a choral group. They do a play every year. There's a book club on the island. We're all volunteer firemen up there on the island. There's yoga classes. There are lots of things that people are engaged in on the island. And then you have this. You've got the beach, you've got the bay, you've got the birds, you've got the fish. So you choose what it is you want to live with. And this is what we choose.
I'm hoping to get bored one day. There's just a whole lot of things going on. We have a volunteer fire department. A lot of us are involved in the activities of that.
The fire department originally formed in 1984 when Safety Harbor Club was developed. They required a legitimate volunteer fire department in order for them to receive certificate of occupancies, and that was the beginning of the volunteer fire department.
North Captiva first turned into a residential resort island through the vision of a Washington attorney named Arthur Mason.
Back in 1979, we'd been vacationing in Sanibel and in South Seas for many years, and believe it or not, we got crowded out. Even then, it was too much for us. And my wife looked across Redfish Pass and she says, "What's up there?" We came up here one day and we bought a place. There was almost no one living here. There was Phil Kinsey, who runs, his family now runs the restaurant. There was Russ Reed, who was the sheriff, strapping, tall, you know, sort of a very strict guy, about 75, and they gave him a gun. Didn't have any bullets in it, but boy, he kept order.
What led Arthur to believe that people would want to live in a development on an island totally unplugged from the mainland?
We had a little slogan called "Getting there is half the fun." We're not overrun. You'll notice that this island has no cars. We have only a couple of restaurants. We have one or two establishments that could be called shops. This is not for everyone. And we like being left alone. And we like our community, where you know everyone. And there's more safety with that, and more security.
I think islands attract really independent-minded people, and you have to be self-reliant.
Safety Harbor Club and North Captiva Island Club Resort both run rental programs for their townhouses and homes so that visitors can experience the enviable unplugged lifestyle, if only for a short time. North Captiva has its own airstrip, so some visitors and residents choose to go airborne to and from the mainland.
In terms of going into town, we'd just soon stay home, just like anybody else, but it makes it so much more convenient having an airplane than having to get on a water taxi and go to Pineland and then getting in a car and drive through Pineland all the way through Cape Coral to do all our business in Fort Myers.
Schlepping supplies by boat, plane, and golf cart, dealing with the threat of hurricanes, sharing a tiny island with some 80 full-timers. Why put up with all that just to live on an unbridged island?
The sun is coming up, the bald eagle's on the sandbar, the terns are feeding. Usually I'm the first one out on the water, so I have about 10 square miles to myself.
Our environment here is so beautiful and so pristine. There's no place like it in the world that I know of. In fact, anytime we leave on vacations, we go to nice places and see great people, but we're always happy to get home and see the estuary, see the little fishes. It's always rewarding. It gives you a very warm feeling.
This is a community where people do as they please and stay to themselves. And privacy and the long, solitary beaches are part of what it's all about.
It's another world. I have a cell phone, but it doesn't work on North Captiva. I don't get reception. So other than the television, we're unplugged completely from the rest of the world, and we have rabbit ears, so we aren't exactly wired to the rest of the world.
So if sanity is to be judged by criteria other than gizmos, gadgets, and uninterrupted connectedness with the outside world, perhaps at the end of the day, when mainland commuters are stuck in traffic, the unbridged islanders of North Captiva are the sanest of all.
Irene First loves her dog, Coco, and has actually taught the dog to sing. This we must see.
I was born in Mansfield, Ohio. I grew up there. I had my career there. Let me tell you, I never had a pet. I've wanted one, I will say, all my life. I mean, I wanted a dog so bad. But, of course, Dad said no. And then when I got married, my husband said no. When we retired, where we were living at Palmetto Palms, no pets. So I thought, am I ever going to get a dog? Well, then my husband, he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. I couldn't go away, and he needed someone, and I thought, this is my time to get a dog. It just would be good for him, and it would be good for me. That's a double bonus. So I checked the papers, and there was a little black Shih Tzu. And there was a gal who was in college, and she didn't have time for her dog, so she wanted to find a nice home. And you know what? He found a nice home. I loved him right away. He was good for me, and he was good for my husband. We've got Coco here, and Coco likes to sit like this, and Coco likes to be talked to. Give me a kiss. He's a very loving dog. He's a very playful dog. He likes other dogs. He likes people. When I take him outside, he'll look around to see if anybody is coming. And if somebody's coming, he just waits. I mean, he's got a job to do, but no, he just waits. And whether it's a person or a dog, and of course with a dog he's a little more happy. He's a good companion, and that's just what I need. Ruth Rogers walks every day in the morning, and that's how I met her 7 years ago. She started stopping in here because it's on her way home, and of course she loves dogs, and she loves Coco. And so she comes in and plays with Coco, and Coco likes these toys that make noise. And then Ruth started playing with him and having him make noise back, trying to make noise like the squeaking toy. And you know what? He really got good. So then after Ruth did that, I thought, why don't we get him to sing? And so I started out with saying, Ruthie's coming, Ruthie's coming, Ruthie's coming. And he would just let out a noise. I call it just a noise. And he seemed to enjoy it, and now we'll go walking, and I'll ask if he'd like to sing, and you know what he sings? I think he likes the attention. And I've taken him to a couple birthday parties, and of course, you know, at birthday parties we always sing. Well, he just chimes right in, and oh, he just really sings, and of course it is funny to see him. You like to sing, don't you? That's a good one, Coco. That's good. He does it for anybody that wants to hear him. And he'll just sing, and sometimes he just doesn't even want to stop. It's meant the whole world. Every pet owner feels the same. A pet is a pet. And of course, this being my first one, it is so precious and so great. It's a blessing, and I thank God for my dog.
When the island swimming pool was demolished and trees removed from the site, Floyd Fote of Sundial made sure to salvage some of the wood, using it to make beautiful items in the Shell Point wood shop.
Came to Shell Point and was looking around here one day, and one of the present residents showed me through the wood shop. When I saw the tools and smelled the wood, I said, "Oh, come on, let's go sign the contract." I did a little woodworking when I was a kid at home, but none between the time I was about a junior in high school until arriving here. One of the previous employees that Shell Point hires to work in the wood shop, Bill Sullivan, encouraged me to get started in wood turning. So we have all kinds of tools up there that we use to shape the wood. There's a motor here, and then you turn it on, and then you can adjust the speed by turning it on. So that's the speed. If you turn it on wide open, it just goes on up. You can vary the speed, and depending on what you're doing and what you want to accomplish, the speed may be varied. And what I know about this is what I've learned here. Part of the process then is making sure my tool rest is as close to this as possible. Okay, now it's ready to run, and they'll be. And again, it's knowing how to hold the tool and how to. You can see me turn that tool a little bit. I'll show you now the bowl part if you want to, and that'll come in on the end. That's the essential in making a bowl. The equipment that we have here is first-class equipment, and not only first-class equipment, but it's kept in first-class condition by the employee that Shell Point hires to work in the wood shop from 8 in the morning until noon every day, Monday through Friday. And Phil Nadal makes sure that all the tools are sharp All the band saws have good blades in them. When visitors come through and they begin to question about all the wonderful equipment that's here, it's interesting for me and any of the rest of us in here to inform them that none of the equipment that's here was purchased by Shell Point. All of it has been either purchased by a resident who is working here. Some few pieces have been left here. Periodically somebody may donate one of the pieces, and we do all kinds of repair work for people from Shell Point, and they find that there's no charge, but there is a kitty there. So we put money in the kitty. Those of us who work here put money in the kitty. Sometimes somebody will come in and we do some repair work for them. We encourage them to give money to the kitty, and then the kitty buys this, that, or the other. And so all of it has been purchased in that fashion. And they're all first-class equipment, 2 table saws, a planer, a joiner, and drill presses. I think there's 4 drill presses. So there's all kinds of equipment that's here in the shop, available for everybody. We have dentists and surgeons who are wood turners for a reason. And I raised the question, why? And he said, because of the coordination between the eye and the hand and the brain. And so I joke about it now and say that my wood turning now has become a time of therapy for me.
Ruth Duber joined us with an easy recipe for crepes, stuffed with spinach artichoke chicken Alfredo.
Hi, I'm Ruth Duber, and this is What's Cooking at Shell Point, and I'm taking a real risk today. One of my favorite things to do is make crepes. But if any of you ever tried it, it doesn't always work out the way you want, but I've got a few extra little tips today. And actually the filling that we're going to use, you actually do it in the microwave, and so it makes it a very easy dish. For the filling, it is shredded chicken, an artichoke and spinach dip, and an Alfredo sauce with a little cheese on the top, and we'll do that in the microwave. So the first thing we're going to do is make the crepes, and wish me luck. You see I've got it in the blender. In the blender is 3/4 of a cup of milk, 1/2 cup of flour, 2 eggs, and about 1/16 of a teaspoon of salt. You put the milk and the egg in first, and then you add the flour and the salt. Then you want to refrigerate it for at least an hour. And that's basically so that the gluten will relax and it will adhere to the eggs and the milk. And you should use a small skillet like this, because that's about the size of the crepe that we're going to make. And the recipe that I'll put up on the website actually will make about 6 crepes. And you're going to put a little bit of butter. Now this crepe recipe is not sweet, but sweet crepes, dessert crepes, are fabulous. Actually, it would be the same recipe, but you'd add about 1/2 tablespoon of sugar. If you want to make them chocolate, you add a little bit of cocoa to it, but it's still the basic crepe recipe. Let it get a little bit hotter. There, we'll start with 1. And basically what you want to do is get it just a little bit brown on the underneath side, and we will peek a little bit to see how it is. I'm going to peek underneath. No, it is not browned yet. If you're worried about flipping it over, I'll show you what we're going to do. Ta-da! Now that could have gone a little bit longer, but there, it's turned over without having it all over the stove or whatever. So when it's all finished, we're going to put it on a plate and let it cool for a bit while I do one more. This, I can see it's a little brown on the bottom, so I'm going to put it right there, put the skillet back there, and turn it over in the pan. Whoops, a little bit lopsided, but you get the idea. Anyway, I'll be able to move it in a minute. A little bit more brown. Now crepes are really wonderful because you can put wax paper between each layer of the crepes and put it in the freezer or the refrigerator, and they heat up beautifully. Okay. All right, now we're going to work on the filling. Now the recipe does call for about a cup of the shredded chicken. And we'll do some of this. This I bought from Publix. Okay, now we're going to go over and heat this in the microwave. Now I'm going to do it for 1 minute and then we'll check it and see. It's great for family vacations. Okay, this is nice and warm. Get that out of the way. And this is some Alfredo sauce. But first, there, we'll put that in the dish. And let's do one more. Now what I have here is probably enough for 6 crepes. Okay. Here's your Alfredo sauce across there. Put a little more Parmesan cheese. And this will heat in the oven just for a couple minutes. Now I'm not going to cover that, so I'm going to keep an eye on it. There we go. Now that's a pretty hearty meal for 2 people, or 1. I'm going to cut just a little piece off there so that I can taste it, let it cool a minute. As I say, you might want to try the sweet crepes by just adding a little bit of sugar, make it chocolate by adding a little cocoa to it, and have fun. All kinds of fillings are available. So, This is a hit. I hope you'll try it. I'll put the recipe up on the website. See you again. Bye-bye.
Jim and Ginny Plummer spent the first 4 months of this year on a cruise ship circumnavigating the globe. Let's hear about their adventures.
I was in the Air Force for a long time, and then we traveled all over the world together while we were in the military service. Wherever we went, we had fun. We enjoyed seeing things, traveling, and that was something that we've always done.
I always wanted to go on this, and we signed up for a Around the World cruise about 1.5 years in advance, and we followed the blogs of other people who were on the cruise for that whole 1.5 years to see what it would be like. So we were well prepared. So we started in Fort Lauderdale. We went through the Panama Canal.
Left Peru and headed westbound, and the first stop was Easter Island, which is one of the bucket list items that we wanted to see, but unfortunately the weather was a little rough and the waves were pretty high.
So we sat up in the bar and we saw the statues.
And then Pitcairn Island, after Easter Island, that's where the Fletcher Christian and the mutineers ended up on Pitcairn Island, and their families' descendants are still there. But it turned out that everybody on the island had some vicious flu. How in the world it got out to Pitcairn Island, I cannot imagine. They did come out to the ship. Our ship gave them a bunch of supplies, food and other stuff that they wanted. So next island after Pitcairn was Tahiti.
Tahiti. Papeete.
Papeete, and we didn't do too much there. We'd not only been there on our honeymoon, but we'd been back a second time.
For our second honeymoon.
And from there we went to New Zealand. And we spent a week in 5 different ports in New Zealand. That was probably our favorite location where we traveled. The weather was magnificent, and the people were so friendly and so nice, and there was so much to see and do. And
we were in Napier, and they just happened to have a bagpipe contest, and all these different bagpipe groups were there. We went to the Marine Museum in Auckland, where they had a lot of information about the America's Cup.
I went on just a wonderful hiking trip there with a group of wilderness hikers, and had a great time.
And we went to a sheepdog demonstration. I mean, we also got to see all the animals down there, the kangaroos, the wombats. Yep. We went down to Tasmania, saw the Tasmanian devils.
After we left New Zealand, then we went across to Australia and had just fantastic time in Sydney, as everyone does. We sailed south from Sydney around the southern part of Australia, so we went to Adelaide and Kangaroo Island, and then up to Perth, Fremantle, and spent 2 nights there. And then we went up to Indonesia. So we went to Bali and to Makassar, another island in Indonesia. We went up into the Philippines, and those are 2 of the best islands, Puerto Princesa and Manila. And really, the people were really genuinely excited to see us and happy we were there. And went out of their way. When you left the ship, there was all kinds of people there to greet you and welcome you. And then we left and went to Hong Kong. We enjoyed Hong Kong immensely. There's so much, again, to see and do. And I had been there 40 years ago also. And I thought they couldn't build any more buildings 40 years ago, and they're just massive now.
At night, they have an illumination of the buildings. We were just on the deck, and they have lasers, and the buildings all light up different colors. It's just beautiful. It really is. And we went out into the harbor to one of the famous floating restaurants. Hong Kong was very nice.
We went to Vietnam, to Nha Trang, and had a wonderful visit there also.
In Vietnam, we took a great tour, and we went to a noodle factory where they were making the noodles, and It must have been 200 degrees in there, and it was just, I don't know. We didn't want to eat noodles the rest of the trip, let me tell you. We went to where they made the little Vietnamese hats.
We ended up in Singapore and spent 2 days in Singapore. We went up to Malaysia and Thailand, a couple of islands up the coast, up to Phuket. We went up to the top of the mountain there on a tram. It was beautiful. From there we went over to Sri Lanka.
Went out to, this is another thing, we went out to a tea plantation.
And we left there and went straight across the Indian Ocean, stopped at the Seychelles Islands, and then went to Madagascar.
Nosy Bee.
Nosy Bee.
That's where I got this necklace.
Yeah,
I think it's a palm nut, someone said, but it's from Nosy Bee, which is a small island off Madagascar, famous for the lemurs. That's where one of the few places lemurs live in the world. So we went to Mozambique, which was really a very interesting city, Mobutu.
And from there we went into South Africa and went to 1, 2, 3 ports in South Africa. Went to Richards Bay and then into Durban. And in both locations we went on little mini safaris, day safaris into smaller safari areas. And the first day, Richards Bay, it was just pouring down rain, so it wasn't much fun.
All the animals were too smart to come out.
In Durban, we had more success on the little mini safari there.
What did you see?
Saw a lot of wild animals.
The Cape buffalo.
The zebras, the giraffes, things like that.
Wildebeest.
The big surprise was Cape Town. We knew nothing about Cape Town at all.
It's a great city.
What a wonderful city that is. A very international, cosmopolitan city. Over in Namibia.
It was one of my favorite stops. They have these huge colonies of flamingos. The part we were in were these fantastic sand dunes, just hundreds of feet high, that go right down to the ocean. I am not very brave. And this tour, I kept on asking our friend who did it, well, we're just going to go look at the sand dunes. She said, yeah, we're just going to go look at them. So we go out in the four-wheel drive. We went right up them in the four-wheel drive and right over the top.
Yeah.
Right over the top.
That was great
It
fun.
was great fun. And then we had lunch out in the middle of this bowl of sand dunes, and they bring out fresh oysters and all this stuff and wine. It was just incredible. We did have a good adventure there. It was just a beautiful place.
From that point on, we go across the South Atlantic and we stop first at St. Helena, which is a very small island out there. And if you've heard of it at all, you're going to know that that's where Napoleon Bonaparte was exiled, out in the middle of the absolute middle of the Atlantic Ocean. And so we visited his home, Napoleon Bonaparte's home, and his grave site where he was originally buried. By the time we got to the equator, we made 2 stops in Brazil, at Fortaleza and then at Belém. Belém being the entryway to the Amazon. Trekking in the jungle, in the Amazon jungle there, and had a pretty good time.
St. Lucia.
St. Lucia. I got off and wandered. I did a lot of walking around town, which we've been there too many times before. And it's an island, it's nice. And then back to Fort Lauderdale. So it was 115 days, close to 50 port stops. We had 19 formal parties on board the ship, so we had to have the tuxedo and all the right gowns, and you get to know everybody. After a 1-week cruise, you're just somebody that's coming and going, but on a long 4-month cruise like that, you're part of the family.
It was hard to come back. It was bad having to make our own bed after 4 months. That
Do your
was
own cooking.
not a good feeling.
So I'd recommend it to anybody that has 4 months free time.
We're glad you joined us for today's show. Tune in next week for more stories and news from around your community. Until then, this is Shell Point Today for the weekend of July 26th, 27th, and 28th. I'm Jared Pike, and from all of us here at Shell Point TV, we hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you again on Monday.